Our first speaker for today is Juha Latvala, the co-founder of and CEO of Intopalo. Please give a warm welcome to him.
Thank you very much. As Sita already presented, my name is Juha Latvala. Welcome also on my behalf for this session. So my intention here is to demystify a bit what immersive technologies mean today. Talk about virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality in what they're actually applicable for today, and then what are the projections on when they will become more interesting in the future. So let's start by having a look at the evolution of this. I'm a great fan of looking, a bit backwards to try to project what's happening now and what's going to happen in the next following years. Now, this picture is from 2009, when many of people in my age group grew up watching Star Trek and the holodeck, and this is what virtual reality will become. So we're completely surrounded by virtual entities, and we interact seamlessly with them in various ways. The reality of 2009 technology was what you can see on the right-hand side, which essentially was this type of a Darth Vader mask that you put on. The resolution was horrible, so you could see kind of big blobs of pixels. And when you move your head, the kind of horizon followed 1 or 2 seconds after your head movement. So you very often needed to have a bucket where you then threw up after this wonderful experience. So it was a bit different, but already at this time, if you look at science fiction, if you look at the literature, if you looked at the different movies, it was very clear that what virtual reality and what augmented reality will become. The only question has actually ever been when. When is that going to happen? So I'm going to talk about that. And this is the current state of the art hardware for virtual and augmented reality utilization. On the left-hand side, you have HTC's Vive virtual reality headset. It provides you an extremely good experience in virtual reality. On the right-hand side, you have a Microsoft HoloLens, which then works for the augmented part. And the difference here, if you're not familiar with this, is that in a virtual reality headset, you just don't see anything through the headset. Everything is what is created in the virtual world, whereas in the HoloLens option, you see through the glasses, and information is simply added to what you're seeing. In 2006, Gartner predicted in the following fashion. Gartner's hype cycle is a typical kind of estimation that you use to estimate, or they do. They analyze and estimate when technology is breaking through, when it becomes usable, and when it's actually becoming a productive tool. So what you typically see in a new technology that starts emerging, first there's some technological innovation that allows for the hype to start growing. Everybody starts talking about it. Everybody starts painting with, bright colors and large fonts that this is the big thing. Everything's gonna change because of this one thing. Then the peak is achieved, and devices, some kind of devices start coming to the market. And then you're kind of becoming a bit despaired by how difficult it is. It's really not applicable. It's not interoperable with the existing systems. And you start diving towards the valley of despair or throw of disillusion. But after that phase, typically technology continues to evolve. You start gaining steps in productivity. And you start reaching actual products, actual use cases. People become used to this. And suddenly, there's no going back. And this has been seen for a wide variety of technologies basically throughout forever. Now, AR was recognized in 2006 on its way towards the peak of inflated expectations. VR was not even in the emerging technologies part. And now suddenly, in 2016, VR is almost at the plateau of productivity. And we're kind of have gone through the despairing part of augmented reality, and we're starting to reach the actual implementations. Now, why is that? What has happened in the previous times, and why has virtual reality caught and sped by augmented reality? Now, one of the reasons is actually thanks to Apple and their mobile phone, high-end mobile phone work, their retina displays, their, you could say, manic focus on the quality of the screens, and can you push them to smaller and smaller in the high-end. And what this has produced is extremely good display technology that you can actually bring very close to your eye, and it's still sharp. So these equipments that we now have in the HTC Vives, which is the high end currently, and you're gonna get better and better in the next years, is good enough that you no longer feel like you're simply in a prototype, but you actually see what the designer wanted to create for you. The experiences you can see today in the virtual reality, while they're not photorealistic, so you see the difference, right? But they are consistent. They are good enough that you really feel you're immersed in a new world. The other reason is that while we cannot control things with our hands in virtual reality as of yet, this tool that is used in HTC Vive, or similar in Oculus Rift or PlayStation's virtual reality headsets, they are very accurate because they contain multiple sensors for movement, for precision. So when you move these in the virtual world, they're actually representing extremely well your hand's movement. And this brings the illusion that you're actually interacting with different things in this world. Now, what we're doing today for industries in this depends on three separate things. And this, if you're from an industry thinking that, well, is this virtual reality for us? And if yes, in what way should we consider it? There's really three kind of main things. The first one is there a digital representation of the business you are? So is there data that represents whatever you do? So if you're a teacher, is there a digital representation of the modules you're teaching, of the tests, of the grades, of the students, of the infrastructures, so that you can actually utilize VR in connection to the real world that you have? This is called the digitization phase of your industry or business. Depending on where you are in, this varies quite a lot. The second part is it okay that today it's just for one person enough to feel this experience and do it like this? And the reason I'll show you why in a way it's the worst situation or the worst part of VR today. It's easy to demonstrate. So now me continuing to have this conversation, just to put it mildly, it looks kind of dorkish. So that's actually the problem with VR. And this is just insanely silly. So there are very, very good cases you can use virtual reality for. But social gatherings or environments where interaction among people is really the key, this is not today ready. In situations where you need situational awareness, efficiency for an operator of operating a machine or training for that, information in all of the 3 dimensions or 4 dimensions when you add a time slider is an extremely powerful tool. And majority of the cases that we're doing fall into maintenance work in VR, into training for a difficult operation where mistakes would be extremely costly. And then finally, operating machinery remotely, because VR offers good tools for this today. So in a way, it is cooler than it looks from the outside. The real coolness is always when you look from the inside of those goggles. Now let's talk about the AR part, the augmented reality part. And here, this is what's being sold for us in terms of the augmented reality part. And this is kind of a good picture in 2 ways. One, it is demonstrating the best value augmented reality today offers. And the best value comes in the format of adding something alongside a physical object. So this will be the mixed reality part. The glasses look like this, these type of glasses. This simply looks silly, maybe not completely dorkish anymore. So there's an evolution in this as well. And the good part is I do see through these. And when this is on, I can, for example, get information about you. This example is from our office, seen through HoloLens goggles, where combined with computer vision, it seeks the information of who is the person that is in front of me. We could attach this to LinkedIn, Facebook, social media, so that when we and I now look at you, if you do have public pictures of you, there's a very large likelihood I know who you are. Scary thought, right? So this is a fantastic tool today to display information that is available somewhere else. But this, again, is not enough as such to be exciting unless the information is in digital format already. And for us, in the video I just showed you, the question is there a neural network that contains the faces and a kind of face recognition software behind that the AR glasses can use? In our cases, there is. And in many cases, you will see in the upcoming years that more and more companies use these type of solutions. So let's talk about a couple of predictions that are currently made and what that means for us. Gartner is estimating that by 2020, 100 million people are making purchases by using augmented technology. They're also saying that 30% of the web browsing sessions will be done without a screen. So that's a voice user interface. This we like. So average person will have more conversation with bots than their spouses. Probably a relief in many families. So augmented reality will really become big, or as Mr. Trump would say, huge, when we can have a plugin that allows us to use augmented information to do shopping. Shopping will be the key to unlock the kind of the volumes for the glasses, the equipment, and the software. And it's kind of a critical mass when that starts going. When you can actually, in your living room, you have a blank area, and you want to choose what you want to have to that. And when you can see that, when you can see how it relates to all of your other equipment, and you can make a one-click buy of it, that's when it's going to be big. And you want to do that to a large degree with voice guidance. Because this idea that you swipe and do all kind of stuff. It looks cool in Minority Report, but trust me, when you really use that, it's you know, people wave their hands and they do stuff, and you don't want that to accidentally do things. Sneezing, you don't want to blow everything into the left corners and so forth. So voice is an important part of this. Now, let's look at online shopping in the first place. It didn't get a flying start either, right? So it took a while for that to go through, and you needed infrastructure to be able to offer the services, the web pages in the first place. It took a while for Amazon to get this right. You need logistics that is capable of attaching to that particular infrastructure. And you need capability of securely do online payments. The interesting part is that all of this already exists. So it's not gonna take as long for augmented reality to reach that phase from where it is today, so this augmented shopping as expected. And Gartner's prediction is that 100 million is a kind of small number in the grand scheme of things, but 100 million in 2020, and from that point, it's gonna really accelerate. So, if you're into technology, what are the kind of the key things that we're looking for that are gonna define if augmented reality really becomes available? So the first one is you need an existing tool to use augmented reality information. And today you need to download specific applications to be able to, for example, use your tablet or phone to do this. Now, this is gonna come into browsers at some point. So it's gonna be a web page, and the interface is similar. And everybody has a browser. Nobody questions anymore that, well, you know, I'd like to browse the web, so I need to download a browser and then do stuff. You have a browser, you have a smartphone. Everybody has a smartphone in this room, I bet you. Nobody's tweeting though, so that's interesting. So that's how it's gonna, and it's gonna happen when there's commercial potential for a browser maker to actually create, which goes into the shopping analogy. Small devices. I mean, I love this device. This is actually good, but it's not an Oakley glasses, which I also like on my free time. But it's inevitable. And when you look at how mobile phones have miniaturized and how usable they are today, 3 years, and you're gonna get from this into the Oakley glasses size. And that's when it's gonna be really interesting. Because sports, you know, people who are really into sports, they love to have gadgets and they want to get the information there, their heart rate, and you know, the next drill, how to do it and so forth, where's the navigation, what to do, and you don't want to spend time looking at different screens. Finally, cheap depth sensors. So what makes an AR headset is the capability of not only having a video camera, but having a video camera that has a depth sensor. So when this is on, this creates, for each pixel it sees, it also measures what's the distance from this to that pixel. So each and every one of you becomes instantly a 3D object when looked through these glasses. That's what allows these glasses to put information alongside you so that it still looks good. And normal phones don't have a depth sensor. They simply have a good camera. So what did Apple now introduce with iPhone X? A depth sensor to measure the face and unlock the iPhone with that. Now, I'm guessing a couple of iPhone X's will be sold, and the price is gonna go down. This is how it happens. And once you start getting cheaper and cheaper depth sensors, these glasses will turn into Oakley glasses, and that's a good thing. So, I talked about the shopping being a big thing, and let's have an example of what it could mean and what it can mean. So essentially, this is a person using a tablet into an empty space, actually at our office, and selecting different components that he or she is interested in. We try to do this with a male engineer first to work out. We needed a bit more artistic eyes for this, so you know, you can't simulate gender, at least not yet. Anyway, so this is what you can do today. And it looks quite good. And what you get kind of as a freebie by using this kind of technology is the actual ability then to walk around, measure, get the instant kind of dimensions of different things, and what is the view, could you put it here, there? And then the question would be, can you, yes or no, actually make the purchase that would allow the equipment, and exactly the equipment, exactly as you chose them to be linked into the logistics and delivery services that, for example, Amazon and every web shop has today. If you're interested in that particular demonstration, by the way, you can find it from our booth downstairs, and you can play around with it. I'm sure Tampere could use a couple of fancy chairs and sofas as well. So that's how it works. The key thing, kind of remembering with immersive tech, VR and AR, is really that we are at a stage that if you have an idea, if you can imagine it, if you can describe it, you can actually see it with these devices. That's the level where we are. And if you can see it, there's a potential to link a commercial aspect for it. So my prediction is that you'll get in 3 years the Oakley glass size version of it, and by that time all of your smartphones will have the capability of automatically seeing AR content as part of your phone operation without actually having to download any more specific things. So it becomes mainstream. And once it becomes mainstream, this has already been in use in industries, because we're right now today doing it with leaders in their particular fields. So hopefully the presentation was a bit teasing your imagination or giving you some depth there. I'd be happy to get a couple of questions in any of the areas that you'd like to ask about. Now don't be a Finnish crowd. Somebody has a question, I'm sure.
So I understand that VR is quite ready for browsers in a way. So okay, so yeah, web VR is quite ready for browsers. What about AR? Does it work as well?
Now this is exactly where I think that for it to work, we will still need to have the browser makers want to do it and find a way to do it. So WebGL is a good example that is working fine and is working well, good enough for that particular case. So the short answer is no, not today, and which is one of those reasons why it's stopping the common use from anyone to, for example, do what was just shown. But in 3 years' time, there's going to be a plugin for each and everyone who wants to sell a physical object to simply link into the browsers that you have in your smartphones, so that it's the same logic as in the web shops you have today for getting objects to your home. Other questions? Who has tried a VR equipment at some point? That's quite a lot. Who has tried an AR glasses at some point? Half about from the VR. It's worth it. So try to visit the booths, try to get into a situation where you can actually try it out. If you're interested, we're arranging also at our office these kind of VR and AR nights. Evenings, I think is a better word for that, to actually go through how it's applicable for a particular business. So if you're interested in that, let me know, let somebody of the Intopalo crew know. Thanks a lot for the questions. Thanks a lot for your attention.